Welcome to another episode of Coder Conversations. I have Brian Goodspeed here with me. Today, we're going to be talking about surviving layoffs and surviving unemployment. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Man, appreciate it, man. How's it going, Kev?
Oh man, can't complain, man. Good to have you back, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I've been a little bit MIA, man. But hey, man, it's good to be back for the first time. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. We gotta get this thing going, man. The show's been picking up some traction. So hey guys, if you haven't already, check us out at coderconvos.com. But yeah, man, it's full steam ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But yeah, interestingly enough, man, we entered software around the same time, and we both got laid off around the same time, and
Yeah, yeah,
we were unemployed for around the same time, which is pretty crazy.
yeah. That was a crazy time, man. It was my first time actually experiencing that. I've been laid off before, but I mean the transition from that layoff to the next opportunity, I mean, it was so fast that I didn't feel it. Like I didn't feel really any effects at all. I think I was placed again at another company within like 2 weeks or so. Like it was literally that fast. Versus this last experience earlier this year, where it took me like I don't know the exact amount of time because it's all a blur at this point, but I think it took me like 4 or 5 months to find my next opportunity, man, and it was brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the exact same experience I had. Got laid off, took me about 4 months, and I didn't think it was gonna be that long because, like you mentioned, usually in software, if you're halfway decent, you got a
Hmm.
new job in 2 weeks.
Oh
But
yeah. Oh yeah.
this was like the worst tech market I ever experienced.
Yeah, man, it was scary, man. I mean, in the beginning, you go in with, the confidence, like, man, it's plenty of jobs. You kind of take your time, especially when you're, like you said, when you're talented, you're confident in your abilities, and then, you don't feel like it's a rush. Man, I need this break. You got a little bit of money set up. You're not feeling any pressure or anything from a financial standpoint. So it's like, yeah, why rush? I'll find something, soon enough. So you kind of for the lack of better words, you kind of taking your time. Um, then after you go on a couple of interviews and realize your talent doesn't really, you know, land you that next opportunity, and that what they're looking for versus what they actually have on the job description is two totally different things. Um, yeah, man, it's crazy. And to be honest, man, even just getting the opportunity to get in front of somebody or have an opportunity to get an interview is so much harder now. Yeah, worst I've ever seen, man, in my 10 plus years of experience, man, in this industry.
Man, you brought up a great point about it's not your talent, it's not anything about you. It's just the market is so bad that
Yeah.
hardly any recruiters were hitting me up. You go through several rounds of interviews, they ghost you at the end. And like you mentioned, initially it was okay because okay, I got this severance, or I got some
Yeah.
money saved up, so
Right.
it's kind of like you just chilling and coasting. But several months in, once the savings start running out, that's a
Hmm.
whole different feeling.
Whole different feeling, man. And I felt the pressure pretty extensively because unfortunately, the company that I got laid off from, they didn't even provide me with any severance or any benefits for that matter. I just pretty much got my last check and that was it.
Mm.
And that kind of creates for the lack of better words, like it creates a sense of animosity, resentment, and not just toward the company itself, but just toward the industry. Just because you feel like you put in your time, your effort, you're literally creating products for the companies that you work for, and they're going on to use the products that you created to fund or fuel their business. Like it's like, hey, like I'm not worth more than that, like come on, man, like what's up? But at the end of the day, it's business, right? Like it's not about how they feel about you. It's not even about how you feel about your company. Like it's just business at the end of the day. So going through that it was an eye opener. It was also it taught me not to be dependent upon what I assume. You need to be diligent. You need to always continue to build yourself. Make sure that you're staying a product of your craft. You know what I mean? Because if you're, in a job, a lot of times when you get into this industry and you're working with a company, they're, whatever technology that they're using, that's just what they're using. And you kind of get caught in whatever that ecosystem is versus technology constantly changing, these frameworks that we're using constantly changing. There's always something new, a new framework, a new technology, a new library. And you can easily become obsolete when you get, if you work several years in a company and then you all of a sudden have to find a new job. And now, oh, they're asking, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know this? Do you know that? I'm like, I've never even heard of that. So yeah, man, I think staying a part of your craft, staying connected to the ever-changing space of information technology, coding, just software engineering as a whole, is very important and vital to be prepared for those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the feeling you just mentioned of the disposability of a software engineer.
Oh yeah.
Um, I recently just seen an article where the CEO of Microsoft, he got this massive raise, but he's laying all these people off. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, like you mentioned, you're spending all your time and effort building up products for this company, and as soon
Hmm.
as they see fit, they just toss you into the trash heap. So it's like, I'm now finding it very important to build something outside of just the typical 9 to 5, because you really don't know if you're gonna have that job or how long it's gonna last, or what are you gonna fall back on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think everybody has a certain level of self-worth, self-value. And sometimes we take that right into these positions or these jobs or careers or whatever you want to call it. Um, and we assume that who we work with or work for values, our talent or our abilities the same way that we value our own. And that's just not the case. You are there for a particular, you know moment, or whether that's this particular project, this particular time span, or even if you're with them long term, you're only as valuable as what you can produce and what they need you for in the moment that it's required. So, you go to your sprint planning and they're like, hey, we need this done, da 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 da. You commit to this. That's your worth right there. You're worth what you commit to during that sprint. You know what I mean? Like, and that's basically what it comes down to. How well you do it, how efficiently you do it. A lot of times that doesn't even matter, because if you say you got 2 week sprints, I'm gonna do this particular feature or add this particular or fix this particular bug during this particular time span, that's your worth right there. And anybody in their eyes can do it. You just happen to be the one that they have in place.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times we kind of get this ego, like we're so special, we're bringing something that can't be replaced. But
Yeah.
the minute you're gone, 2 weeks later, nobody even really remembers you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so it's kind of like, yeah, work hard for a company, but if you really want to get ahead, you have to start establishing something outside of the 9 to 5 if you really want to be rewarded for the amount of effort you're putting in. Because I know you really put in a lot of work at that company, but you no longer reap any fruits, because once they let
Right.
you go, you're
Yeah.
gone.
Everything I built, everything that I created is no longer mine. Like, it's, even if I see, that product later down the line and it's, generating or, you know, touching millions of people, it's not no longer, me. Like, that's no longer mine. And I look at coding as an art, right? Like, that's kind of part of how I got into coding is, you know, I'm an artist naturally, and I'm also a tech head. Like, I love tech. And so coding kind of helped me satisfy both of those parts of me. Like, I can exercise, my love for technology, but at the same time, I can create, like I said, like an artist through this code. And, when I create an app or, you know, anything like that, it's it's like that's my baby. Like, that's part of what I've created. That's who I am, and that's a piece of me. And so to be able to see something like that touch millions of people, or have whatever the case may be, whatever the scale is, it still doesn't take away from the fact that I have a piece of me out there. And to be thrown to the side, like, no, this is ours, not yours, it's, you know, it's kind of difficult to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it can definitely rub you the wrong way, you know, when you put all your blood, sweat, and tears into this product, and
Hmm.
now it's no longer yours in any form of fashion. It's kind of like, hey, you got to move on, and you know, that's the thing about the tech industry. There's a lot of moving on because you know, most people are not with the same company for probably more than a couple of years.
Yeah, that
Um,
seems to be the case nowadays, like especially in tech. And the sad truth is that, you know, it's easy to become complacent at a company. You know, you get comfortable. You know, you basically, it just becomes your job. You don't, you know, you kind of slowly lose your passion for your art or your craft, and you're just collecting a paycheck. And then what ends up happening is that, you know, you kind of get stagnant, because unfortunately the sad truth in this industry is that the biggest way to increase or move forward in this industry is to move to another company. You know, take what you've learned and the value that you've built at this company and use that to elevate yourself to, you know, better or a more valuable place somewhere else. Because a lot of times, and I had, it took me a while to understand this, but a lot of times it's not necessarily about what you're worth versus what somebody can afford to pay you. You know what I mean? So I mean, let's just be honest. Yes, if you're at a Microsoft or Google or, you know, any of the FANG, you know, companies, they have what seems to be an exorbitant amount of money, right? I can pay you whatever, because at the end of the day, we have that much, you know, we have that much resources. You go to a small startup or something like that, they might not have the funding. And it's not that you aren't as great as you know are, or valuable as you are. It's just that I can't afford to pay that much. So and then when you pair that with, you know, you being laid off and you needing an opportunity, sometimes you just have to take that step back to get back, you know, solid, get a good foundation to springboard off that again, which is kind of where I'm at this point.
yeah, you know, it's pretty interesting. You know, a company is gonna typically go with the lowest cost bidder, so to say,
Oh
because you
yeah.
know, in the job marketplace, they the cost that, you know, typically they're thinking about the immediate cost. You know, it's kind of like if we're hungry, we're not always going to go pull up to this fancy steakhouse. We just need
Hmm.
something to satiate our hunger, so we're going to pull into McDonald's of Chick-fil-A. And you
Yeah.
know, sometimes these companies look at it like that. You have this immense amount of skill. You want 170K. They're going to go for this guy over here who's going to take 80K, but he might not do
As
as good of
great.
a
Yeah.
job, but he gets the job done to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's kind of what it comes down to. There's always the MVP, right? And do I need a 10 plus year experienced developer to come in to get this MVP? You know what I mean? To get the requirements met. You know, a lot of times, and this is what I've noticed, is that it's all dependent upon, you know, whether it's customer facing, whether it's internal, you know, because at the end of the day, behind the scenes, the person who's using it, the user never knows what the code looks like, or, you
Yeah.
know, they're just using an application. And so when you're looking at it from a standpoint of, does it really matter how efficient this, you know, code was written, or how great it is, or how expandable it is, or, you know, can we scale it? And all, so a lot of times that doesn't even matter to the company. They just want to get this product in front of this client or these users, and that's all that matters. And so the most efficient and cost effective way to do that might not be paying you 170. You know, it might be paying this guy 80. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point about software craftsmanship is not necessarily there because, like you mentioned, it only comes into account when something goes wrong and oh,
Yeah.
why isn't this app working? Why is the experience so bad that users are complaining? Just as long as no users are complaining, you
Right.
know, this manager who hasn't touched code in 10 years, he doesn't know or he doesn't really even care about the quality of code. That's something that's
Mhm.
important to me and you dealing with it every day, but to the managers and the higher ups, just as long as it works good enough for more customers to come onto the app, that's what matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but yeah, I feel like what I learned during you know, this most recent layoff this year, and it didn't help that the economy was tanking as well. So, you know, it was a lot of factors that played a part. Like, I'm sure that the industry, just like everything else, will bounce back, and it may not be as hard, but you don't get to choose, right? You don't get to choose when you get laid off, and you also don't get to choose what the industry or the, the economics, the status is during that time frame. So the best thing that I could say is, again, always be a product or a student of your craft. Never assume that where you are right now is good enough. And also, you have to find ways to stay passionate. I've gone through those ebbs and flows many times over, where I lose my desire, you know, like I lose my passion. And so that causes me to go into this kind of stale state where I'm just not learning. I'm not, you know, like you remember how we used to do back in the day, man. We
Yeah.
would leave work, and then go home and code some more. Like, because just we were just that into the process, man. We were just that ingrained into the industry. Man, I can't remember the last time I've, coded outside of my job. It's
Right.
been a while. And it's not because the value isn't there anymore. It's just that, again, you kind of lose the passion. So I would say, like I said, keeping that learning process going. Never be comfortable where you are. And always look for the next opportunity. Not saying changing jobs, because the next opportunity could be where you are, but just learning something new, or applying yourself to grow in the company that you're with. I guess I'm just saying, don't ever get complacent.
Yeah, that's really important because, like, we can get to a point in tech where, okay, the job's easy. We can kind of kick back, lay back. We're making enough money to where we can buy a version of whatever it is that we want.
Yeah,
But, and then that makes you start laying back, kicking back a little. But, you know, sooner or later, the rug is going to get pulled up under you. And are you going to be ready for the ever changing market? That's the thing about tech is it never stays the same. You always
yeah,
have to have new skills. You can get out of alignment really quick, and that's
yeah,
what's so dangerous.
yeah.
Can you speak to like when you were unemployed and you were unemployed for a couple of months? Like, how did you start surviving once the funds started diminishing?
Um, so funny enough, so yes, I mean, obviously, we make a decent amount in this industry. So I had, some savings, in my checking account. So it's not like it was like, oh, I'm living check to check or nothing like that. So that's number one. Uh, if you're in that space, figure out a way to manage your budget to get back down to a way where you can, have something to fall back on in case of something like that. That's very important. And even though I just think that way anyway, um, like, that's something that a lot of people don't consider. It's very important to me to have some, I would say, at least 3 months worth of your living expenses saved up. I happen to have that at the time, so that helped a lot. Um, I think the other big thing, is managing my money, managing my spending. So the things that I would be, kind of frivolous about, kind of tighten up on some of those things. Like you said, I don't need to go out to these fancy restaurants. Maybe I need to start cooking more at home. So a lot of those things played a part into me adjusting my lifestyle to accommodate my situation. Um, you know, and you kind of don't think about it ahead of time. And like I said, when you have a false sense of confidence, like I had, like, oh, it'd be easy. I'm gonna get another
Yeah.
job in like 2-3 weeks, man. I took a couple of weeks off, not even trying to find another job, and then reality set in. You know what I mean? So yes, there was an adjustment period. I would say don't take a break. You know, um, uh, I think that, like I said, managing your budget, adjusting it accordingly. You can't live the same lifestyle that you were living, with a job versus without. And also, like I said, having that savings, there would definitely be beneficial. And there's one other thing that I didn't do that I feel like a lot of coders kind of don't even think about is freelancing. Like
Mm,
like I wish I would have looked into that more heavily,
yeah.
um, to just go out and just find side jobs, find side projects, find a way to generate revenue, even though you don't have to depend on a company to fuel your finances. Like, you have the ability to go in and create your own lane. Now, I'm not saying that would be a way to replace, the income of a, solid company or a position at a company, but it might mean the difference between not being able to pay your mortgage and being able to feed your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would also say that, look into freelancing if you ever, find yourself in a position where you lose your job.
And file for unemployment too. It took,
Oh yeah,
it took
man, I messed up with that, man. Again, man, you just that false sense of security, man. It's
yeah,
so easy to just, yeah, I don't want to go through all that and da, 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 da.
yeah.
Man, I wish I would have, man. And
Boy,
I
I've
told
been there.
myself I was gonna do it. I actually went through the process, but then for some reason, I think I missed a step or something,
Mm,
something that I didn't do that actually starts the payments coming in, man. And looking back on that, man, I kick myself in the pants all the time.
yeah,
Like, that's just free. That's your money.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, money. Yeah,
it's your money. Literally, that, like, I'm not even playing. Like, you're
yeah,
paying this amount out of your check as you work for unemployment. Like, this is your money. Like, why not
right.
draw that in the time of need? Like, it's otherwise, what, you're not gonna use it. You're not gonna do anything with it. It's just
Yeah,
gonna sit there. So, yeah, man.
yeah. And to get back to your freelancing point, I think it's important to start that process before you're laid off. While you're working. That
Mm.
way, once you do get laid off, boom, you already got this going, and
Man, I
you're
was
not.
actually thinking about that. I was thinking about that today actually. I was talking to one of my friends, and we were just having a general conversation, just about success and, being intentional and being consistent and, like making every day count. And man, I was just telling him, like, man, I don't know why I haven't started, freelancing. Like, I talk
Mm,
about it a lot in my head. I think about it a lot, but I'm more often than not, I find myself, wasting time. Like I did during my layoff. Like the first month or so, I wasted a lot of time. Like all that time that I have open to me now because I'm not working, what are you like? Why not,
yeah.
fill that gap? And the same thing exists even when you are working, when you are employed. There's a very big portion of your day that is consumed with things that aren't necessary. Whether that be scrolling social media, watching TV, or just literally just laying there doing nothing. Like, um, you could be freelancing during that time. Like, and like you said, if you already have that acclimated, you're already building, your rapport, who knows where they might take you. You might even be able to replace, you know, a job with your ability to freelance. That's a great
Absolutely.
point. That's a great point.
And now is always the best time to start, especially with all the things coming down the pipeline, AI and
Oh
mass
yeah.
layoffs. You're gonna have to have something built up to be able to support yourself
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
prices
Well,
going. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask real quick, like you mentioned AI.
Um,
What you like, do you think that like that we're gonna, come into this weird space, where AI becomes so intelligent that it can create itself, or, you know, everybody thinks about that apocalyptic, movie
yeah.
setting where AI takes over and da 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 da.
Mm,
How, like, I know it's kind of a little off track a little bit, but you mentioned it, so I just wanted to kind
yeah.
of see where
Yeah.
your head was on that real quick.
Oh yeah, so we the past couple of shows were about AI and its dangers, and I believe they already have that super intelligent AI behind the scenes. They're not releasing it to us, but they're kind of slowly dripping it out to us.
Hmm.
It's inevitable. Like AI, you ask it, hey, summarize this book. It does it in a couple of minutes. Whereas it's gonna
Yeah,
take you weeks to read the book, and
yeah,
it's already more capable than us in many regards. It's just how fast do they want to roll out the most advanced version of it, without destabilizing society. So,
yeah.
I think you got to start thinking ahead and building something in preparation for that.
So, do you think that it's important to position yourself as a coder to, be able to leverage your skills in that, like, because AI, in my opinion, is a totally different beast. It's not, it's totally different than what you would consider standard, software, um, applications,
Mhm.
websites. Like, all of that stuff is like over here, where then you
Yeah,
have AI. It's like its own, it's its own thing. So,
right.
how important do you think it would be to, as a coder, to like start transitioning and finding opportunities in that space?
I think you have to utilize all the tools available to you. Because before computers, people were full of computers. Like I'm not necessarily the fondest of AI, but you can utilize it in limited ways to really enhance your productivity. So, for example, with podcast editing, you can run the podcast through an AI software, and it takes out the ums and ahs. Normally, that would take like 3 or 4 hours of you just listening to the podcast and manually doing it. It does that in 5 minutes. So,
Mhm.
utilizing these tools in that limited capacity. But the danger is when you're overly relying on AI to where it's fully replacing your skill set. Like, oh, normally I write books, but I got the AI writing a book for me. Normally, I produce videos, but I'm using AI generated videos, AI generated titles, and just throwing it up there. Like at that
Yeah.
point where it's replacing your core skill set, you're in danger of being replaced. Period.
Yeah, I can see that. So from a so somebody has to, okay, well, I guess then you have to think about whether AI is used as a tool or is AI used as a platform, right?
Right.
So if you imagine like a microwave, right? A microwave cooks your food faster
Mhm.
than you having to cook it in another method, right?
Right.
But the
Right.
microwave can't prep the food. The microwave can't put it in a container. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
steps that are required or prerequisites to this particular tool doing its job, right?
Right. Right.
So what you're saying is that AI should be more or less used as a tool and
Yeah.
not as a complete self-sustained platform. Like
Right.
like if you think about like the Jetsons, you know what I mean? Like you just go and press a button and then it just gives you like the food just comes out. Like I didn't do no
Right.
prep. I didn't
Exactly.
do no I literally didn't do anything. Like this machine or this program or whatever just figured all that out for me. Do you think that
Exactly.
that's actually a possibility? Like is that a real thing in your mind?
Yeah, from some of the stuff that I'm seeing, like right now, it's not completely up to par, but it's been able to produce songs that if somebody didn't tell you, you would think that,
That is for
oh,
real.
it's a human made this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
So
is that is scary, man. So do you think that there would be a space for coders or just software engineers to be able to leverage their skill set, like we're talking about freelancing and things like that,
yeah,
like to be able to take advantage of your skill set in its current space? Because right
right.
now, yes, there still needs to be tools that are created to utilize, you know, this level of technology, right? Like
Mhm.
AI is not creating itself, right? It's not
Right, right.
presenting itself in a UI or in a program. Like somebody has to put it there and connect the pieces and
Yeah.
present that as a product. So do you feel like that this industry should be leaning more toward that since that's where we're going, or you're saying that we should be more or less fighting against that to protect our job security?
I mean, I think it's inevitable that the profit potential is so vast that you can't fight against it. The corporations are going full steam ahead. So
Yeah.
you have to position yourself in a way that you're utilizing AI to dramatically enhance your productivity, but you're
Hmm.
not letting it replace your core skill set. So you as a coder, AI, yeah, it can produce code, but is this code right? Your ability
Yeah.
to analyze the code and say, oh no, this isn't going to give the intended result. We need to change this.
Yeah.
But the AI is scaffolding the code base, so it's saving you hours of doing, you
Yeah.
know, kind of that trivial work.
Right, right, right.
But
Yeah, because I,
you,
I definitely
Mhm.
use code assistance in VS Code for sure. Like at first, I was like, "Yeah, I don't need that," but then as I use it and it learns, things about not only my code that I'm writing actively, but the code that I've written before. Like it literally can see code not just from my own code base, but code
Right.
base from other people that are using similar tools and technologies. So if I'm coding a React component, like it kind of knows what the structure of a React component looks like, and so it can basically tell me, oh well, this looks right because this is what a lot of other people have done, including
Mhm.
yourself, in previous things that you've written. Is this what you mean? And I'm gonna be honest, man, it's getting more like the more I use it, the more I'm like, okay, this thing actually knows what it's talking about.
Yeah.
And so I don't rely is a strong word. I don't rely on it, but it does make me feel a little bit more efficient, like
Mhm.
where I don't have to type out these extra characters. And if you do that enough, if you think about think about how many characters you've typed out in your career, right?
Right, right.
If you can cut that in half, think about how more efficient we can, develop. So
Right.
I agree with you in that aspect. It needs to be compartmentalized into a tool only.
Mm,
At the
exactly.
point that we're creating AI that can create programs, then what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think we have to start defining ourselves by not by the tools, but by the end results. Like I'm capable of delivering this end result, meaning,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not a JavaScript developer. I'm a person who could deliver an application to you utilizing a variety of different means. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might utilize JavaScript, but also scaffolded out a bunch of this with the AI because, like say, um, you go to a restaurant, you don't care how they cooked it, you just care about does this taste good. You
Right.
don't care, oh, they cooked it on top of some stones or they cooked it on the grill, they cooked it in a skillet. Like if it
Yeah.
delivers the taste you want at the price you want, you're gonna get it. So I think we got to start thinking like that, and instead of being, oh, I'm a JavaScript developer, I'm somebody that uses this tool, and this tool to accomplish this result.
Mm. Yeah. I think that goes back into, what I was saying before, where,
Mm.
never be comfortable with where you are.
Yep.
I have a perfect example. Like I've been an Angular developer my entire career, but this layoff taught me something. Well, that may not be where you need to just stay. Like I
Yeah.
transitioned into a React role, and now I'm, increasing my range. Like I've learned a lot in Angular, but I'm not learning a lot more. Like I learned the majority of my Angular experience earlier in my career, where now, where I just went through this layoff and I'm back in the market, and there's more React opportunities than Angular, and I'm like, oh well, it wasn't like that when back in my day. Like when I started this process, like Angular was the king, but that's just an example of
Right.
continuously being a product, what I'm saying, or a student of your craft. Because if I dabbled in React, so I knew what it was. I've, coded in it a little bit, but I wasn't like ingrained in it. Like I couldn't go to somewhere and be like, oh yeah, I know that for sure. Like it was more or less, I know the concepts, or I know a little bit about it, but it's different when you go in with the confidence, like, oh yeah, I can do whatever you need me to do in this. And
Right.
that's where I found myself like kind of getting reinvigorated, where I'm using this time off to, train myself, learn a new technology, learn these things, and learn about what I should have already known. Because if I would have stayed, boots to the ground in this industry, I would have known that React is starting to become, the leading uh, framework or library, I should say, in this industry. So you need to
Right.
learn that, whether you're
Absolutely.
using it at your job or not.
Exactly. Always progress. But yeah, man, I think this is a fantastic note to end this episode on. Did you have any closing thoughts you want to leave with the audience?
And again, just on subject matter, never get complacent. Stay a student of your craft, and like I said before, always have something to fall back on.
Absolutely. But we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. If you haven't already, check us out at Coder